I mean, there's some social anxiety where, these kids can't even look you in the eye. And they really reach in and grab you and say, we're here for you. We're paying attention and we're going to help you work through some of these issues by singing and dancing. But I think just being seen is significant.
Future Current with Dr. Stephen Bean.
Hey, Lainey, today we have a special guest. I can't wait for our audience to listen to Casey. He's the president and CEO of Segerstrom Center for the Arts.
Yes.
He was nominated 3 times for Tony Awards, and he won once for Best Music Producer.
I only know that because I read his bio, because he did not tell me that. He's so humble and really, really passionate about the arts. It's contagious. I'm excited for people to hear this conversation.
Yeah, let's get to it.
We're rolling, I think.
Oh, they're already rolling. Okay.
Every podcast I've ever listened to, they're talking for
They're just
5
talking,
minutes,
yeah.
and then somebody goes, wait, are we rolling? Oh, we've been rolling. So I'm already used to it.
Well, listen, I'm really excited, Casey, that you're here today because we talk about the arts.
Yeah.
And how the arts, though, how it marriages with education.
Mm-hmm.
And how we need to do, I think, as a county superintendent of schools, we need to do a better job of really promoting the arts. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. My name is Casey Reitz, and I'm the president and CEO of the Segerstrom Center for the Arts. And I've worked in the arts, pretty much the nonprofit arts, my entire career, mostly in theater. But I started. Do you want like a deep dive background a little bit?
Whatever, yeah, share whatever you'd like.
I mean, I can tell you a little bit about my experience, my professional experience, but then why the arts were important to me as a young person. I mean, I grew up in Marietta, Georgia in the 80s and 90s, and we were very lucky to have, I think, significant arts education in my school, and I kind of took it for granted. But we learned the recorder, we learned singing, we learned chorus, we learned the violin. We did school plays, and they were remarkable. They gave me a real opportunity to explore my creativity and to have fun. And we did school musical. We had drama class. We had chorus class in high school. We did the school musical every year. We had a 1-act competition. And I went on to a life in the theater. I studied acting in undergrad at the University of Alabama, and kind of midway through my career there, my time there, I realized I was a really bad actor and didn't have the toughness for it. I mean, I love actors, but that's a tough business. I mean, it is full of failure all the time.
Wow.
And I realized that really wasn't my makeup, my complexion. So I shifted over to arts administration, theater management.
Okay.
And I went to the Yale School of Drama to study theater management. And pretty much my entire career since then has been in nonprofit arts management, mostly for theaters, but now with a performing arts center where I've been the president and CEO of the Segerstrom Center for the Arts for about 6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just gotten to know you in the last 15 months. And I will say you've done a remarkable job.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. So,
well, we appreciate the Department of Education and
Yeah.
all you do for us, and really jumping in and helping to facilitate this connection between education
Yep.
and the arts.
It's
really
important.
exciting. Yeah.
So speaking of education and students, you said something. What would you say to kids who want to go into the arts, but it's such a it's a difficult field to be at the top of?
Yeah.
Share more of that.
Well, I think part of it was when I was a kid doing it in high school and doing our high school musicals, doing our 1-acts. I mean, I thought the only things you could do in theater were either be on stage or be the person that hung the lights.
Right.
I thought that's all there was. And then in college, I did start to understand and expand further into understanding. And well, let me step back. My professors at Alabama were fabulous, because even though I was an actor in my early days and studying acting, and they said, you really need to be a well-rounded theater person, a well-rounded arts person. And so I took classes in stagecraft and management and directing and makeup and lighting and set design. And the idea was always supposed to be, even if you aren't going to do this professionally, if you're going to be an actor, you should know and appreciate what everybody else does. And it was really my first lesson in kind of respecting the collaborative process and the collaborative nature of the arts. And at the time, and again, I thought I was going to be an actor, but now that I am in theater management, and I focused primarily on management and fundraising and these kinds of things, nobody would want me backstage. I mean, I would be a liability, but I shouldn't be backstage. But I know how to hang a light. I know how to go up on the pin rail and shift weights. So it gives me an appreciation for what people do, even though I can't and shouldn't be doing it as a professional.
That reminds me of a story in third grade. I was asked to be Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol, big production actually
Yeah,
at downtown San Diego Spreckles Theater,
yeah.
and so there I am sitting as Tiny Tim, and there comes the ghost of President whatever, and along with Scrooge, they come over to close to me, and all I'm doing is watching them.
Yeah.
And so then the next performance, they realize, okay, that's a bad thing. So they moved across stage as they talked to make sure that I didn't watch them because I'm not supposed to see them.
Right.
And so, anyways, so what I learned there is I'm not an actor.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing. Not everybody should be. And I used to think that everybody in the arts was kind of a failed actor like me, but
yeah.
I did learn that people come from different parts of the arts, and that's what we do. And we do that through our internships at the center. We have fellowships around technical skills, backstage work, stage management, to help kids see that there are many
Yeah.
different paths. And I mean, it goes on and on. It can be stagecraft, it can be marketing, it can be fundraising, it could be front of house. I mean, there's so many ways to engage with the arts. And that was what was exciting for me. And when I decided I didn't want to be an actor, I kind of panicked for a minute, and I spent the summer working for a lawyer, because when you were my age, I don't know what the equivalent is today, but if you didn't know what you wanted to do with your life, you went to law school. And I worked for a lawyer all summer and realized that was not what I wanted to do. But I realized that I could still work in the arts. I could contribute to the arts. I could be surrounded by the arts. And as not being an actor, I knew I was going to have a paycheck every week. I wasn't going to retire young and be a billionaire by any stretch, but at least I knew that I was going to get paid every week and not have to audition. So I thought, this is for me. This
really
is
cool.
my path.
So you had a passion in arts.
Absolutely.
And so you discovered there are multiple ways that you could exhibit that passion. It doesn't have to be acting. That's what
Yeah,
got
I
from
mean,
it.
I think when I realized I didn't want to be an actor, I understood I still wanted to be around it. I
Yep.
still wanted to promote it. I was still excited about it. It had changed my life, and I wanted to be a part of it, changing other people's lives. So that was it. It was exciting for me to still stay involved. And I realized I was a little bit better suited to be maybe being a little bit more behind the scenes
Yeah.
and elevating and showcasing the artists as
Yeah.
opposed to being one.
That gives a lot of hope to our kids. you
Yeah.
saying that. So
Yeah. And I think, I hope the through line through our conversation here is, no matter how you engage in the arts as a young person, and especially we try to reach them as young as we can. I mean, there are some very interesting stats that we've learned over the years, and some relate directly to the theater and some other, but especially as we work with Disney musicals in schools, trying to implement sustainable musical theater programs in elementary schools around Orange County. And I've seen presentations with Disney musicals in schools and the head of kind of youth programs for the New York Rangers, the hockey team. And they work from a lot of the same theories, which is, most kids decide what their favorite sports team is by the time they're 6 years old. Most kids know what their favorite musical genre is by the time they're 12. The studies also show that if you're not in a theater, if you don't get to spend time in a theater by the time you're 8 years old, you won't feel like it belongs to you, like you belong there, like you're welcome there. So that's our goal, is to reach kids as young as we can. And we do that. Disney musicals in schools is a great example. We reach elementary school kids. And then as they, grow up, they really have, going back to my earlier point, hope. Whether they're going to pursue it professionally or not is not the issue. They might just, choose to be audience members and enjoy it. And that's great. But there are several benefits, emotionally, mentally, physically. But one of the biggest ones is that it gives you hope for a better future.
Yes.
Your outlook for your future remains better. And alternately, you see that decline in confidence and hope for kids that don't have the arts. So it's significant to develop it.
And it really is. I appreciate you saying that you're reaching out to make sure there's the connection with elementary schools,
Yes,
because I do feel like that is, by the time you get to secondary, especially high school, there are more opportunities. But by then,
that's
like you
right.
were saying, there's people who've already decided that's probably not the path
Hmm.
for them. So we definitely see those who are maybe in underserved areas not having those opportunities earlier on, whereas kids who have come from families with means, they can put them in the theater program in their, pay for those things.
That's
But
right.
that's not really an option for everyone. So how is this, the things that you're doing, you mentioned internships and apprenticeships, all these things, how are those making it to, you mentioned one example,
Yeah.
but what are other ways those are making it into those who really we want to have the access?
Well, you just said it. I mean, we're looking to where kids don't have the resources and
Mm,
whatever schooling they have at that age. And we certainly do go through as, young as elementary school up through high school. But beyond Disney musicals in schools. And so our programs kind of exist both at the center, at the physical center.
yeah.
So we have the on-stage program. So we work with a lot of schools around Orange County, providing very affordable tickets to our family series or even our Broadway series, $6,
Oh,
$9.
wow.
And we bus them in, and there are bus rebates. And that's a good opportunity to bring the kids to the theater. And many of them have never stepped foot in a theater before. And that even alone can be one of the big, um, just that act alone can really help kids decide or feel that they belong. Just walking into the theater and
Yeah.
experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, I think about kids who watch movies and they get excited about that, but you don't get that much access or exposure to theater. And so
That's
I
right.
love that you guys are doing that. That's
That's
so
right.
important.
So then we have another program is called Arts Teach, which is also utilizing relationships with many of the school districts around Orange County, but that's when we go into the schools
Oh,
and we have teaching artists that focus on theater, on visual art, on dance, on music that go into the schools. And those are designed to kind of, take the place of where schools don't have a certified arts teacher. So we provide that service. Hopefully, over time, our ultimate goal is for as many schools as possible to have a certified arts teacher, on staff. And our hope is that Prop 28 really goes a long way to doing that. And maybe we'll get more into the area of training teachers, which we also do as well through programs at UCI and Cal State Fullerton. But if we could shift from training and them already being there to us having to do it, that would be a huge win for us.
That's so encouraging to hear because, if the audience is like me before I even came onto this job, I didn't know that the Segerstrom did that. I
Right.
didn't know that you went out to the public, you went out to education to really, or to schools to really educate our
yeah.
students on all the possibilities in the arts,
Yeah.
right? I just thought, okay, we have Segerstrom Theater, they have, they put on a bunch of shows and they come to you, but you're actively out there and engaged. And one way that you're engaged is with us, Orange County Department of Education, through Summer at the Center.
Right.
What an
Right.
amazing program that takes the most vulnerable students from our alternative education program called Access,
Right.
and then they come and spend, and you correct me if I'm wrong, they spend 2 or 3 weeks with you
2 weeks.
guys?
2 weeks.
2 weeks to learn dance, song, and then they, at the end of that, they perform in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So
Yes.
how did that originate? And tell us more about that.
Well, and that's an amazing program. And, everything we're talking about, some of the programs are newer, but that program's actually been at the center for 30 plus years. It's
Yeah.
one of our longest standing programs. I think, and it started in working with the access programs to give at-risk youth, kids without resources, an opportunity to really explore their creativity and grow in confidence. And as you've seen with that program, what's amazing about it is you get 30 to 40 kids, who come in, many of whom have never been in a theater before, never performed before.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 weeks, you're seeing kids that barely talk, that would tell you they have no friends, that have lived horrible, dealt with horrible circumstances like drug abuse, domestic abuse,
Or
homelessness.
they're struggling with a disability,
They're
unseen
struggling with the
disability, right?
disability. And in 2 weeks, they're up on their feet,
Yeah.
dancing, singing. I mean, for somebody that's never performed before, that doesn't have some of
Yeah.
those hardships, to go in 2 weeks to performing in front of a live audience is a huge stretch to begin with, right? So for these kids to be up and have the confidence and the feeling of self-worth, and you'll hear them say, I didn't have friends before this
Yep.
program. Now I have 20 friends, and I can't wait to continue. I had no hope for the future. Now I see myself being a performer, or I see myself being a hairdresser or a banker or an architect, whatever it is that they want to pursue. But again, it goes back to that concept of hope. They
Yeah.
start to see a brighter future. One of the things that I think about a lot, and how I relate it to people that don't necessarily know or understand how the arts can really help you as a young person, is by talking about athletics, especially in Southern California. You know, everybody plays soccer, baseball,
Yeah.
whatever. I love sports. I grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I went to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. I love the football team, but I do not have a lot of athletic ability, as much as that pains me and my father. But I went into the arts, and it gave me a lot of the same things that I think that a lot of kids that focus on athletics give. I mean, you get, you understand teamwork, you understand discipline,
Yeah.
you understand collaboration,
Yes.
you grow in confidence. But you don't have to throw a baseball really well or kick a soccer ball really well to experience that in the arts. And I think they're so closely aligned that way. And that's the best way I know to articulate it to people that don't have arts experience or haven't appreciated
So
it.
so that experience that you just shared, is that the transform, or does that transform the students that go through that summer of the center?
Yeah.
Because we hear that all the time. They have been transformed. We hear
Yeah.
metamorphosis after 2 weeks, but what is it about that program that reaches the heart of our students?
I think one of the things is, and if you go to that program, you'll see there's, a husband and wife that run the program, and then they engage in a series of, sorry, I keep hitting the mic, engage in a series of, with volunteers that have done this work over the years. And my take on it is always that just the amount of attention that they are paid by these volunteers and students. I mean, one of the anecdotes that I hear over and over is so many of these kids, these students, get passed through different foster homes, different kind of living
Yes.
situations, educational situations, and people don't even tend to learn their names.
Mm.
They get bounced around so much. So
Great point.
that was one of the things that I didn't even occur to me.
Mm.
But, sometimes I hear these stories of, it was on day 3 and they walked up to me and said, "Hey, Josh," and nobody had ever called him by his name before. And just that sense of, that notion of being seen, that notion of being valued, that notion of, we understand you're in the corner not talking and kind of looking down, which is, I mean, there's some social anxiety where, these kids can't even look you in the eye. And they really reach in and grab you and say, "We're here for you. We're paying attention, and we're going to help you work through some of these issues by singing and dancing." But I think just being seen is significant.
So you know them by name, you see them, it makes them feel part of the community. It's kind of like that Cheers song, right?
Everybody knows
name,
your
right?
name. Yeah.
Right? They come into the bar and everybody knows them because they know each other and they're part of a community. And that's what this program really reminds me of.
That's exactly right. And that was what was so cool about my high school experience was,
Mhm.
we took a drama class. There was a woman named Miss Evans, and we did the school musical every year. And she knew how to create a community. And she knew that she needed to grab the kids that were actually interested in acting. Let's pair them with the band kids. Those are the orchestras. But then we need people in the back that can do the
Yep.
backflips and all that. So I'm going to grab the baseball players, and I'm going to grab the football players. So no matter where you were part of that musical. And it was one of the most popular things in the school because Miss Evans made a great community. No matter what your background was or what your interest was, and then to really just explain it a little bit more about specific to me, and I hope this is okay, but when I was in high school, I had some family problems. My parents had some issues. They were thinking about getting divorced,
Mm.
and I got the lead in My Fair Lady. I was Henry Higgins, which was like the biggest deal to me up until that point in my life. And my parents came every night and watched the show, and my grandmother came down, and my cousins came down.
Mm.
And I remember after it was done, Miss Evans pulled me aside and said, "You know what, Casey, I think not only was this a great experience for you and you had fun and learned to roll, but I think this brought your family closer together and made your family closer together." And it didn't occur to me before that. I was like, "You're absolutely right." And that was one of the first times I really saw the transformative power of the arts. Was, I got a role. I thought that was just going to be something for me, and it ended up changing the entire dynamic of my family. And
Yeah.
it was huge.
Yeah.
And so if I can just extrapolate to what that means for other kids, it's significant.
I just got chills.
Yeah. Me too.
Casey, you guys are doing so much there. And Segerstrom, do I say it correctly?
Segerstrom.
Segerstrom.
Yeah.
No, I don't say it correctly. I probably say it different on this episode. But what are some other things happening there? Because I feel like there's so much going on that people like me maybe don't know about.
Yeah.
And so for those listening, obviously there's great opportunities for kids, for families. Like what are some of the things maybe we don't know about?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the funny things. So I mentioned I started there 6 years ago, and we're very well known for big Broadway productions, great big classical dance, our resident companies, Pacific Symphony, so on. But what I was told from the beginning was we have amazing education programs. We
Mhm.
talked about them. They've been around 30 plus years, have served thousands of students, but it's the best kept secret in Orange County. And we're working on a long range plan right now that hopefully will be passed next month. And one of the goals of that plan is to help everybody, our board, our stakeholders, our staff understand that programming at the center does not just mean the work that's on stage. It means community engagement programming. It means education programming. And we're trying to put them all on the same plane, all on the level playing field. But to answer your question, I mean, beyond Disney musicals and schools, Summer at the Center, we do have a family series. We do 6 to 7 productions every year in the Samueli Theater, usually about 45 minutes at a clip, which is about what the young kids can handle. But you can subscribe to that series. You can buy single tickets to that series. And those are also the shows that the kids do bus-ins for. And sometimes they're one-person shows. They involve different kinds of theatrical elements and are really a good introduction for the kids. We have internships where they can exist in different departments and learn some of those skills that we talked about earlier, ways that they can engage in the performing arts beyond just being a performer. What did I mention? Disney musicals and schools.
So, like, if someone was thinking, like, "Ooh, I like the idea of doing an internship," what would they do to reach out and make that happen?
And you just go to our website and you go under education, and there's the application right there, and it explains the whole program. And not only do you work either in marketing or fundraising or whatnot, we do a seminar every week where you get to hear from a department head in a different department talk about, and I do one every semester. What was my path? How did I get here? Why did I choose this? How could this work in your life? And, and these are kids that are at Chapman and UCI and Cal State Fullerton and are all trying to make their career choices. And this is a big part of that.
I think that what you just said, Casey, challenged me and challenged the work that we do here at County Office of Education, Orange County Department of Education. We have what's called a career education unit. And they constantly go out and try to find businesses for internships, apprenticeships, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard much around us going to you
Yeah.
to create another pathway for our kids and embed that into our schools. So I think you've challenged me in this conversation to
good.
look into that. I really like that. Something else that resonated with me, what you said, Casey, is this idea that the arts isn't just about transforming the individual, but it's actually, through your story, is the transformation of the community around that individual.
That's right.
Right? I love that. And I see that through Orange County Arts Disability. So at the County Office of Education, annually we bring together students with disabilities across the county that they display their arts and do dance at the Main Place Mall and performances. And the parents are left just transformed after that. So it's not really necessarily just the performers, but it's the audience, the parents. They feel so proud of their kids. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, and that's absolutely right. And this is a general statement, but we, all the data shows that when a community has significant arts, I mean, there's physical and psychological safety.
Yeah.
The community is more active. They're more civic minded. They're more likely to do what they need to do to improve the lives of those around them. And especially with like Disney musicals in schools is another great example, because We do 4 elementary schools every year. They are given the tools to create a musical theater piece.
Hmm.
They're given a Disney property, Aladdin, Lion King. They're given the scripts, the blocking, the choreography. They're given the tools, and then they're given the environment to create. And that's when the parents come in and they sew the costumes, and somebody runs the soundboard, and somebody runs the lights. And
It's
then
awesome.
of the 4 schools every year, they come to the Henry and Renee Segerstrom Concert Hall at the Segerstrom Center, and they have their share. And all 4 schools get up and sing a song together, and then each individually perform their songs. But before the doors open, their families are lined up down the plaza. Everybody's there. It is a full family experience, and I think that lends itself to what you were talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do, if you don't mind, Lane, I have one question. Our show is called Future Current, right? So, what are some of the current challenges that we face in the arts
Yeah.
that you're taking a proactive approach to overcome that for the future of our kids?
Well, funding's number one. I mean,
Okay.
that's a big one. And I think that's why Prop 28 is so huge, because if we can get,
Tell the audience what Prop 28 is.
well, you might help me describe it a little bit better, but it was an initiative that was passed by the voters, I think 3 years ago,
Hmm.
that shifted the way tax revenue was dealt with. It didn't increase taxes, but it shifted the way tax revenues are dealt with to feed $1 billion into the California public school system to fund arts programming.
That's right.
Is that
That's
the best way to say
accurate.
it?
Yes.
So it's not funding that flows through us or is anything that we can control. And one of the issues is that you're trying to put certified public arts teachers in the public schools, there's a lack of teachers that have been trained for this work. So it's going to take time to train them. They're not just sitting at home waiting for this funding, waiting for this call. So we have a role in training them. So I guess if that's the money, if the money is starting to arrive, next is training,
Yeah.
really, and then appreciation of that. And then I think, then we start to also, I think, want to reach some of the older populations as well, and try to reach the people that didn't get it as school children, and not just
Interesting.
give up on them and understand. So
So tell me more about that. So you're saying we have a subset of our population that went through school, didn't really get much exposure in the arts,
right,
and you have a initiative to reach out to them.
yeah.
How?
So we have different programs that reach young professionals,
Yeah.
young leaders rising. I mean, and one place that we've changed it significantly is we have this program called Studio D, which used to be called the School of Music and Dance for Children with Disabilities. We changed the program for a number of reasons. One is that name is quite the mouthful,
Yeah.
and two, continuing on, we're doing more than theater and dance. We wanted to do visual arts, acting, so there's that. But we didn't want it to just be about children anymore. So we've now, because what happens is with that population, and these are kids that deal with issues like autism, and a lot of the programs that service them kind of end at age 18. We wanted to continue to give the kids an outlet to explore their creativity into adulthood. So our oldest, I think, student now is 38 years old, and he's now saying he wants to be an actor and a performer as he, when he grows up. So we're doing that to try to reach adult populations, because so many of these programs, even our own, for too long kind of cut off at 18. And then where do the kids go
Right.
at 18? Who's
Right.
picking up the ball?
Right.
It's not anybody else, so we decided to pick it up, and
That
we're
is
going to
interesting.
continue to look at that.
Huh. That's a great focus.
It is. I was going to ask you what gives you hope for the future, but I feel like that might be it. Is there something
Yeah.
else? I mean, like, because to me, that's so interesting to not just be like, well, we missed them.
Yeah.
Too bad for them. Like,
Mhm.
no, how can we still reach them?
Yeah, and I think, I have hope for the future, because unfortunately, I started at the center right before the pandemic, and I was, trying to run the organization when we weren't allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we talked about in terms of being optimistic and kind of glass half full was that as people were isolated, they were going to miss that social connection that can only come from the performing arts. And that when the pandemic was over, now we were a little naive in those days, and I think we all thought there would be one magical day where the pandemic was over
Right,
and
right.
we'd all run out of our houses with our eyes open. It happened over time, as you know, but people would flock back to the theater because they missed that social cohesion. And that's what's happened in the case of the Segerstrom Center. Our attendance levels are at or higher than what they were before
Fantastic.
the pandemic. And I think that says a lot about how people inherently understood our value, but how we've gotten better about talking about our value. And the intersection between art and wellness is a big aspect of that, that there's now the science has caught up with what we kind of knew in our hearts working in the arts the whole time, that there are significant mental and physical benefits to the arts, whether it's addressing loneliness, addressing anxiety, addressing depression. But on the physical side, it can be addressing blood pressure, lowering blood pressure, addressing anxiety. And these are the benefits that that people that have been in it, the arts for a long time understand, but we're trying to work more and more with educational institutions, healthcare institutions, to become more of a beacon of understanding around that in Orange County, because I think that's a benefit that people will really understand about the arts. And that gives me significant hope for the future.
That's wonderful.
I'm like full of hope right now.
Good.
I could talk to you for hours, Casey, but I know we got to get you on the road. So I just wanted to ask you, you've mentioned a lot of great programs. You mentioned the website. Is that the best way for people to figure out all the opportunities that you all are providing?
Absolutely. Everything's on the website. We just redid it a few years ago, and you can go to scfta.org and get it all right there. Internships, educational programs, something to just come and buy a ticket to. We have a lot of free and low cost programs in our arduous plaza. So if you want to just come and check it out without making a huge commitment, you can always do that. So that's one of the things that we want to try to be for Orange County, is no matter where you are on your arts journey, you're a young kid with no arts experience. Maybe you're in your 20s and you have no arts experience. Maybe you're in your 40s and studied arts intently, but we want to have an entry point for you no matter where you are. And that's what our goal is. And you can go to the website and find that.
Well, we'll put that in the show notes because we want people to be able to connect with that. That's amazing.
And that gives me hope that we have leaders like you that lift the arts in our communities, because then it lifts just us as a society. So thank you.
Well, and
Thank
right
you,
back
Casey.
at you. I mean, I have a great deal of hope that you're inviting somebody like me to set in on a conversation like this, that there's that level of attention coming from somebody like you. So thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Appreciate that.
Thank you for listening to Future Current, a podcast from the Orange County Department of Education. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow, rate, and review Future Current on your favorite podcast platform. The opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Orange County Department of Education, its leadership, or staff. To learn more about the programs and people shaping the future of Orange County, visit ocde.us.